Value 95.7, New Orleans' only classic rock. The John Osterlind Morning Show is brought to you by the most ordinary man in New Orleans, and Lamarck Ford. So yesterday, as we were getting the show going, something horrible happened, something really scary. Our congressman down here, Steve Scalise, House Majority Whip, was shot along with 4 others. And the latest that we have, when he entered the hospital, he was in stable condition when he entered the hospital. He had surgery, and then after surgery, they said he was in critical condition and that he will need more surgeries because there was internal bleeding and other things. So we're obviously thinking about him and we're praying for him. And more has come out about his shooter now. It looks as if, well, obviously the guy's a lunatic. And I'll be honest with you. You know, if you have Facebook friends and all they do is post political rhetoric on their Facebook pages, I don't want to say keep an eye on them, but keep an eye on them. We got your fingerprints.
Shouldn't they be on a watch list?
And I have a lot of Facebook friends. I don't know most of them, just because I have the radio show and I've always used my Facebook page just for telling jokes and such. But I know a bunch of people up. I see a bunch of people on my Facebook page, and pretty much the only things they talk about are politics, and a lot of times they're not happy, and a lot of times I'm not happy. That's an outlet for some. Let them vent, whatever the case may be. For me, I'm not happy. Brewster.
Not laughing because it's funny, laughing because of the irony.
I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, if you're someone who pretty much is a one-trick Johnny, a one-note pony, just Trump this, Trump that, Trump this, Trump that, Trump this. Well, you know, the guy's a nut. Plain and simple. He's a nut.
Yeah, I don't know if
he's a nut.
And yeah, biggest day on his Facebook cover page, big picture of Bernie.
He's a nut. Well, on the Senate floor yesterday, Bernie Sanders, he's a nut. A couple of weeks ago, out in Portland, Oregon, there were a couple of Muslims that were shot by a white guy. Remember the news led with that for a couple of days. Oh, this anti-Muslim, this racist. Turns out he's a nut. If you remember, Bernie Sanders, he's a nut. I don't know if anyone's ever told you this. I'm a nut. I'm a nut. His biggest demographic that loved him were like college-age kids.
But not necessarily political science majors.
No, and you got to realize college-age kids, they don't know what they're talking about. They've never been on their own. They've never, well, if they're on their own for their first time, are they paying for it? Do they pay taxes? Do they know what it's like to own a house, pay taxes, raise kids, pay taxes, put them through school, pay taxes, get a job, pay taxes, be responsible, pay taxes? College kids don't know anything like that. Do they pay taxes? This is a real good idea. You know, the 60s hippie, you know, that's saying share everything. Socialism's great, man.
Is that right?
Well, yeah, I said it all morning yesterday, and we'll always continue to say it. We're the greatest country in the world, the United States. I can name other countries that are better. You know, I could name Switzerland, and I could say, and you know, there are a lot of people in this country that don't think so. And you know what? And if you don't think so, get the hell out. Being free and being America, it's got its dangers. And you saw one of them yesterday. I can name other countries that are better. You know, obviously we're not perfect. So the other night, Katy Perry, she could be bald, Brewster. She could shave,
she can.
She could shave her head, and she could be completely bald, and it'd be fine with me.
Mm-hmm.
She's a pop star, a pop tart, pop princess, pop star.
Chop her head off.
She said, "We don't need borders. We can all just get along. Let's just
chop her head off."
That was pretty creative. But anyways, he sat down with Katy Perry the other night.
Chop her head off.
He asked her, "Who are the best?" You've dated some very famous men. When it comes to under the sheets, who's the best? And evidently, the 3 most famous men that she has dated: singer, songwriter, guitarist John Mayer, actor Orlando Bloom.
Well, hang on here. I think I would, if I were a woman, I think I would date John Mayer.
actor Orlando Bloom, and I never heard of this guy unless they told me who he was. He's a producer. I guess he does electronic dance music. Some fella named Diplo. That's his name, just Diplo.
Yeah.
Diplo, Diplo. And so James Corden said, well, out of those three famous guys, who's the best guy, when you did sex, who was the best and who was the worst when it comes to doing sex? And, all she said was Diplo. Yeah. Diplo, Diplo. Well, he tweeted, quote,
chop her head off a little bit.
I added that one. I threw that in.
Yes.
And her father is a preacher, and her father, for years, said his daughter's going to hell.
Yes, chop her head off.
I love Katy Perry. I love her.
I'd like to chop her head off.
She's a Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
She's a pop princess. Her. I love her, but a few years from now, people will barely remember her.
The single,
unless she keeps on the charts. Remember when Paula Abdul was huge? When was the last time you heard? Straight up now, tell me, are you really gonna love me
God
forever?
In heaven, please don't sing.
When was the last time you heard that?
We got paid today. I will offer you the single greatest Katy Perry thing, in my opinion, that she ever did is not even musical. It was on an episode of SNL, Saturday Night Live. And she's wearing, it's one of those fake talk show things or whatever the premise was.
Sure.
She's wearing this deep cut, kind of very skimpy Angry Birds t-shirt. And the whole bit is she just stands up and bounces.
I remember that. How could you forget that?
And there are animated GIFs all over the internet of her doing that. And that will wake you up in the morning.
That's why many, 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 many men say when Katy Perry's name comes up, boy, it's hard not to be physically attracted to her.
Yeah.
It's very difficult not for most men to look at her. I can't imagine a man looking at her and saying, that's okay.
That is that's an albatross that I will gladly wear around my neck if I can chop her head off.
Bayou 95.7, New Orleans' only classic rock. Good morning. The John Osterlind Morning Show is brought to you by the most ordinary man in New Orleans, and Lamarck Ford. Hey, speaking of fathers, there's a New Orleans father that's in a little bit of trouble. Juvenile, the most underrated guy out there in our country. Juvenile.
Are you a big Juvenile fan?
Well, I'm not a big rap fan. Although I've always said I like the older stuff, like the earliest stuff, like Juvenile. I've always been obviously a huge rock person. That's where my roots are. But I like Juvenile. He played Southport Hall the other night. I like that venue, but I like Juvenile. He helped launch Cash Money record label, which that made it big, national prominence back in the day.
Juvenile. Well, he got shivved. Sorry, we lost him.
Hopefully, he can get it together. But he didn't play Essence Fest.
No, I think he's way past that.
I mean, the guy's in his 80s now at this point. He had a multi-platinum album. It was called 400 Degrees in 1998. That album launched the legendary New Orleans bounce anthem, Back That Ass Up. Boy, Megyn Kelly did an interview last night for NBC News with the lunatic Alex Jones. He's a nut. What do you think? Do you think they did the right move by airing that?
Yes. I do.
By giving him a larger stage?
Yes.
But she started out, her first big get was Vladimir Putin. He's a nut. Sandy Hook never happened. It never happened. Those are all actors. They did it to try to get guns banned in the United States.
Right. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos out there about how it was incendiary devices. The driver of JFK's limo, he turned to his right or pointed a pistol over his right shoulder, and it looks like a .45 service revolver, and shot JFK.
But he didn't say that last night with Megyn Kelly.
Chop her head off. You know what they say, the best disinfectant for a cockroach is the bright light of day.
The Holocaust never happened. Look at some of the people. Look at the pictures. They're the same actors that were at Sandy Hook. Coming up next, the Pope. Yeah, and he's still alive.
95.7. 95.7. Bayou.
Colin Kaepernick, he might not be one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the world, but he's definitely one of the best 64 quarterbacks in the world. Kaepernick, he posted on social media. He put 2 badges up.